I have a feeling this is going to be an interesting one for me because this is one of the first times I'm going into movies with knowing nothing about the critic reviews, and I'm actually making a critic review myself before the RT score is available all around. What I do know from the first fan screenings of Wicked for Good, as you can see here, is the audience that went Monday night seemingly loved it, having a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, with this Amazon Prime early showing at IMAX or regular stuff. I saw it in IMAX tonight. But I'm curious to see what that critic score is because I'm going out of this with interesting thoughts. Wicked for Good is good. There's no doubts about it. And it has a lot of amazing qualities to it, whether you want to talk about the acting performances of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, whether you want to talk about the outstanding makeup and hairstyling, the production design, the costume design. But I do think there's something going on here that loses, I feel, the special sparkle that I had in the first Wicked movie. What do I mean by that? Okay, let's just talk about the good stuff first. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande continue to have amazing chemistry when they're together as Elphaba and Glinda. You see this through certain parts of the movie. In some ways, maybe not as much as I would like or what the story allows it to happen. But when they're on screen together, when Glinda and Elphaba are either, adversaries or just concerned friends for one another, the movie flourishes the best. And none more with the third act of the movie. I really do think both Erivo and Grande give tremendous performances that lifts for good into a really strong third act and final moments of this movie. Again, I'm going to give a lot more praise for Ariana Grande for that here in a second, but their chemistry is great. Once again, the production design of Oz here, the Wicked world, outstanding. You don't get as flashy as you might have had with Shiv on the university scale, but still, a lot of the set pieces you have, a lot of the stuff you have going on with these set pieces are outstanding, and Munchkin Land is continuously one of the most jaw-dropping things you see that was physically made in media. Currently, it could easily win production design again like it won for the first movie a year ago. Performances just based alone acting wise, Ariana Grande is a outstanding tour de force as Glinda again. And while the first movie she was primarily being carried by a honestly, in my opinion, a award-winning comedic acting performance in a supporting role, here she takes almost more of a lead and really delivers some of the most dramatic moments and some of the, I think, most difficult moments to be acting throughout Wicked for Good. Glinda is going through so many different type of character arcs and emotions through this movie, and Grande is able to deliver on all of them and more, on top of what is always going to be her impeccable singing quality and persona that comes from just her talented artistry that we've come to know for her for many years now. Cynthia Erivo as, Elphaba does deliver, I think, a lot of good in this movie. And I think she gets the outstanding song with No Good Deed is just the best moment of the movie when it comes to the music, and I'll talk more about that later, but her kind of struggling with Elphaba and where Elphaba's trying to succeed this movie, in a lot of ways sets up Erivo for a more challenging approach to Elphaba this movie. And I think for most of it, you're getting an outstanding performance from Erivo for that. It wouldn't surprise me to see her nominated for an Oscar this year, but I do think she's a little bit weaker in this movie than she was the first. And I don't necessarily know if that's really for her. I actually think her character takes a back seat a lot more in this movie than the first one, so that you have more Glinda, and you're also diversifying some attention in different places. That's where we kind of have some issues here. Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero, Ethan Slater as Bach, and Marissa Bode as Nesserode. They do fine in their acting roles in this movie, but those three characters of, Nessa Rose, Bach, and even Fiyero. I mean, Fiyero gets good screen time, but those three characters feel like they have arcs and journeys that should be explored more in this movie. But they really get kind of left behind, and more than anything, just feel like checked boxes that are needed to go out. Because, we have to end here in this story, so they need to do this, this, and this, without really getting into their characters more and understanding them all that well. They've kind of become side fodder per se, and I think that's one of the biggest struggles I have from Wicked for Good is I think the characters you built up so well of Nessa Rose and definitely Bach and Fiyero in the first Wicked movie don't get that attention and love because everybody split off into their own ways. My hot take coming out of Wicked for Good is this should have been a trilogy. And why do I say that? Because I think Wicked for Good has a clear ending place where you can end, and then you can have the final movie be tying in everything that I think is going on with Dorothy, with Elphaba, with Glinda, and all the other characters in the Wicked universe. And I think it would allow all these characters to have arcs and growth and feel like more beloved through a full trilogy aspect. They took the approach with Dorothy in this movie not to show her face. She's very much a side background character when she comes in. And I think in some ways that goes to the film's benefit because they want to keep all attention on Elphaba and Glinda. But I do think it also hurts pretty hard because I think Dorothy is a character you can write as a good, in between of where Glinda's coming from, and the innocence and wanting things to be good, and the struggle and agony that Elphaba has gone all of her life and feeling alone. I think you could have worked Dorothy into a third part movie that really brings all of these stories up together and allows people like Bach and Nessa Rose and Fiyero to have more character arc and time to breathe in a second movie with where their story kind of goes in this third one. That's just my opinion. I do think those characters are glossed over, and I feel like they showed in a scene here that we all saw the Elphaba and the Glinda out in the field just having a good time. They show this scene as basically Fiyero, Glinda, Nessa, Bach, and Elphaba all together for this, and it really feels like this could have been 5 characters all together that you're getting their stories and where they go based off the Wizard of Oz. And I already know what people are going to say. That's not what Wicked is. Wicked is a different story, but Wicked came from The Wizard of Oz. It told a different story than The Wizard of Oz, the theatrical play version, for the Wicked and the movie Wizard of Oz and the book Wizard of Oz. So I think if you're going to adapt into a film form, you can even take the next level and I think really work everything together to tell a much better cohesive story in a trilogy aspect instead of just check marking the characters and where they need to go and how things need to end up, because it does leave a pretty brisk, bland pace and leaves me a little bit dissatisfied through the rest of this movie. On the other hand, songs in this movie hit some ways. For Good, No Good Deeds are the standout. But this movie didn't have, in my opinion, many supporting songs like you had from the first Wicked movie. I'm talking about Popular, I'm talking about What Is This Feeling, talking about Wizard and I, obviously you have Defying Gravity, Dancing Through Life. The first movie just breathes through the music, where this one, I don't think it breathes that well. Outside of For Good and No Good Deeds Go Undone, it does provide some more calm, dramatic moments, and I do appreciate that. But yeah, the music I think is severely lacking in this movie, and that's not necessarily a downside of the movie. It's just comparing it to the first and maybe some expectations for you going in. Your antagonists of the movie, obviously Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard of Oz, Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible. Honestly, I kind of like what they did with Jeff Goldblum in this movie. Again, I think those two characters, you could do better with a trilogy, I think. I think a trilogy would have been much better for that, and it would have worked overall things better. As far as the stunt casting of Coleman Domingo as a Cowardly Lion, you get maybe 10 seconds of the Cowardly Lion talking on screen, and it's kind of disappointing because, as you know, if you've seen my review of The Running Man, my short, I just love Coleman Domingo, and he knocks it out of the park everything he's in. But yeah, so how do I feel about this movie? It's a good movie. I recommend you go see it. I have to say, though, where the last movie was a diamond in one of my top movies of 2024, this movie is coming in at a platinum level. It could not get to that diamond aspect. Too much of it felt like we're check-marking boxes, and characters just felt like they're just doing what they need to do instead of us understanding what's their character arc, what's going on, and going through their emotions. It was speedrunning, I feel, a story, and that just hurt my overall enjoyment of the movie. Now, like I said, audience who went tonight seemingly loved it, 98% approval rate. I'm interested to see that critic rate, but tell me your thoughts, though, on Wicked for Good in the comments down below, and my thoughts. When you see this movie, do you agree with my trilogy pitch? Do you not agree with my trilogy pitch? I'm going to go into that more in YouTube Shorts, so like and subscribe while I explain that out here this weekend once we give a little bit more spoiler thoughts. But that's going to be it today. I'm going to be having sentimental value reviews this week, rental family review this week, and so much more going into the Thanksgiving holiday. Maybe even a spoiler review for Wicked for Good. If you want that, tell me in the comments down below. But until then, I'll see you later, and I hope you guys have a wicked good time.